Welcome in, listener. You're listening to a segment from the Slumpbuster podcast with Ju-Ju Dre. Find the full episode on Spotify, iTunes, the Google Play Store, or our YouTube channel. Enjoy.
All right. I think it's time that we get into some NFL action this week. So let's pull up the games right now. So the first one of the weekend, obviously, Thursday Night Football. Danny Dimes is not apparently the heir apparent to Eli Manning, as he does not have nearly as much success against the Patriots.
Yeah, and at first the game started out sort of close in the first quarter, and I was like, oh, maybe it'll be an interesting game. But then I think it ended up basically how everybody thought it would. Patriots went on to dominate, and the Giants, looked sort of just like the Giants. I think, Eli's still going to be benched. Daniel Jones is still going to be the starter, but the Patriots just did what the Patriots do and beat bad teams.
Pretty much at this point. I understand. So they're 6-0, obviously, but their matchups haven't exactly been against the most quality opponents, to say the least. I think next week they play the Jets, and granted the Jets do get Darnold back, but I think that's another matchup that we can already chalk up as a W for the Patriots.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And this, I will beat this drum until I die, but the Patriots have always had an easy schedule just because their division has been so inept. Right. And again, they have the easiest schedule in the NFL. And that is what helps them get to, honestly, the Super Bowl year after year. When you have that easy of a schedule, it helps you get that bye.
I'll counter it a little bit here. There's a lot of teams or worse organizations that couldn't even do themselves a favor and beat these bad teams.
Yes, that is true. So I think you're right. I'm not saying that's all of it, right? You do have to give your credit. They build very good teams. They have an incredible system over there. Bill Belichick, even though, they've been caught cheating, he is actually a very smart coach. I don't even think he would have to have cheated and able to, win as many rings as he has. And so, yes, you're right. It does take a certain amount of talent in both the front office and on the field, right, to come up with the amount of wins that they have and the amount of success that they've had. But you can't deny that because of all the buys that they've had when it comes to the playoffs, right? You just get the easier side of the bracket when you have that much success because you constantly get to beat up on bad teams.
But you can also say that when they do get to the playoffs, again, Harris is going to hate hearing this, but you look at some of the teams they've had to play in the playoffs. They've played good Steelers teams, good Chargers teams, certainly good Broncos teams, and they've managed to come out the better in those matchups. You still have to win those games. So
yes, but it's also easier to win those hard games when you've had the extra rest, right? When you've had the bye and your body is not as beat up as it is because you've been playing these easy scrub teams.
Well, easy teams or not, I think that you definitely have to give a shout out to this Patriots defense. Mm-hmm. It is imposing its will on other teams to the point of breaking them. I don't think we've seen as many teams this dominant on one half of the ball as they are. And you also have to factor in the Patriots have a pretty good quarterback on the other side of the football, don't they?
Yeah, no, I mean, this Patriots team, so far, they seem well-rounded. And that's the thing is we haven't quite seen them tested this season. And so I'm hoping it's not everybody's jumping on the bandwagon, right? Just like we sort of did with the Cowboys. Though I think the Patriots are a little bit more sustainable. I think they're just better, a better organization than the Cowboys. They're better coached than the Cowboys. So I think what we're seeing is more sustainable than what we've seen with the Cowboys. But again, at the same time, they played a lot of bad teams, so the defense can look extremely good. But I do think that it is more sustainable.
Okay, I think it'd probably be good for our listeners to just kind of go through what the Patriots have next on their schedule. So they're going to play the Jets. We already talked about that. Should be an easy matchup for them. They face the Browns in Foxborough. Belichick against these younger quarterbacks under 25. He has a great history against them. Ravens, same thing against a young quarterback of Lamar Jackson. Eagles are probably going to be their next big test. Then they face the Eagles and Cowboys actually in back-to-back weeks. That's where we're going to learn a lot about them. Texans, Chiefs. So from the weeks of November 17th all the way up until the first week in December, they're going to be playing some playoff level competition. So if you want a barometer of how good this Patriots team really is, that's going to be your time to really test it out. As far as the Giants side of things, Daniel Jones looked good. I mean, in a bad game, he did throw enough interceptions. I say good in the sense I know what was around him. He was missing Evan Ingram in that game. He was missing Saquon Barkley in that game. He did get Golden Tate back, but he also had Sterling Shepard out of that game. You start putting some weapons around this guy, I think he's actually might be surprising. I know I did a complete 180 from the second episode of our show all the way up until a few weeks ago when Daniel Jones made his debut. But I've liked what I see. He just passes the eye test right now that I actually get to see him on the field.
Yeah, no, I agree. So again, another apology, Daniel Jones. You've made fools out of us, so you're doing a fantastic job. And like you said, he didn't have all the weapons around him, and sometimes you need your young quarterbacks to play in these games where you're playing against, guys that have been to Super Bowls, right? When you're playing against the Tom Brady's and the Patriot defense. And it's a part of the growing process. And the fact that Daniel Jones still did okay without having some of his best weapons around him and playing the returning Super Bowl champions, I think he's doing a fantastic job. There's not much more you can ask from such a young rookie quarterback, especially taking over from Eli Manning, who, has 2 rings himself, right? And for a long time has been your franchise quarterback. And so he's doing a great job. I think the Giants this year, I still don't see them doing much, right? Like I don't see them in the playoff picture. But, if few good draft picks, and I could see them there in the short future.
I'll throw this out there to you. Cowboys are 3-2. Eagles are 3-2. And you have the Giants just sticking around there at 2-4. There's some things that could break right if you're a Giants fan. You might get lucky.
You could, right? Like there is the possibility that they get lucky. I still think those 2 teams are very tough, though, right? Like the Cowboys, even though they're not as tough as Cowboys fans thought after week 3, they're still a very tough team. And then we all know that this Eagles team, right, very, very much has the potential to make it to a Super Bowl. Will they? That's questionable, but they have the talent and potential to.
They're playing much better. All right, so I'm not going to do another bad London accent for this one, albeit I'll say this. Both yours and mine are infinitely better than Eris's.
Is he awful at British accents?
Oh, my God. Eris, much love to you, bro. I apologize for making you do that on the Fantasy Football Show. I will not do that to you again. Much love from Ju-Ju on that one, but it sounded like this weird Lucky Charms kind of Shrek hybrid. I'm my bad, bro. I made a mistake.
Yeah, no more accents for Eris. And we love Eris. This is why we love him, but no more accents.
You roast the ones you love, guys. You roast the ones you love. All right, so as far as the game here, set your alarm bright and early for this one. If you're on the West Coast, this game will take place on 6:30 a.m. Sunday morning. We have the Panthers as the away team going to face the Buccaneers in jolly old London. That's enough. Satisfied with that one. Kyle Allen, fourth start this season. Can he keep it up against the Buccaneers?
For me, this game seems almost like a 50-50 game. I think I'm actually going to take the Buccaneers. The Panthers have looked good with Kyle Allen. I think the time change is going to be a big deal for him. And so
Same thing. They're both East Coast teams.
They're both East Coast teams, but when you're, a rookie, right, and you're young as a quarterback and, you've never traveled before or you don't travel all that much, I think it has a little bit bigger of an impact, right? So whereas Winston, he's been in the league before, and I don't know if he's ever played in London before.
Okay, I'll counter though. Like Kyle Allen actually technically isn't a rookie. He was on the roster last year. Last year he was an undrafted rookie.
Okay, so you're right. So I guess it's his first year really starting, but not technically his rookie year, sophomore season. I'll still take Jameis Winston. The Buccaneers have also started to look a little bit better. They did beat the Rams, obviously, right, that we saw. So I'm going to go with the Buccaneers.
All right. It's a 2.5-point line, too, I should state. I'm actually going to go with the Panthers. I just don't see a good way the Buccaneers defense is going to stop Christian McCaffrey in this matchup. And basically, I just love what I'm seeing from the Panthers on the defensive side of the ball as well. We're seeing that they clearly have the pieces, and that's why we're starting to have this argument whether Kyle Allen could replace Cam right now. It's a legitimate possibility, folks. You mentioned Jameis might have the maturity. Are you sure about that? Are we really going to bank on Jameis being the more mature one here?
I did say maturity. I said experience, right? There could be a slight difference.
He has experience in Uber rides, but I'm not going to trust him in the car with me either.
I guess that's true. No, you bring up very good points. I still like my pick. I'm going the Buccaneers.
All right. So we're opposed on that one. Going into this next one, the Browns need a bounce back week in the worst way. So they are welcoming into town Seattle. Are they going to get reprieve being on their home field this week while traveling to go to the West Coast and then come back home too, coming on a short week off Monday night? Granted, I'll say this. They didn't even really play Monday night as evidenced by the score.
Yeah, and I don't know what's going on with the Browns. There's some games they look really good. There's some games they look really bad. The Seahawks, I think, right now are just the better team, right? But you never know what happens when you go to play someone on their home turf. I think I'll go. I guess do you know who's the underdog in this one?
Okay, so Seattle actually is a 1.5 point favorite.
Seattle's the 1.5 point favorite. Make this my dog pick. I'll take the Browns.
That's fair. Dog pick for the doghouse. Okay. Woo woo. Mm-hmm. I'm actually going to go with the Browns too. And I'm going to throw that out there just because, again, this team just needs a bounce back in the worst possible way. I think they're going to throw at Odell like 20 times in this matchup, to be honest, because they just need to fix everything. Just rub the stink off of this matchup. And I know that the Seahawks obviously added Jadeveon Clowney, but their pass rush isn't really scaring anyone. There's no one on the Seattle side of the ball certainly coming at Baker Mayfield with the ferocity that Nick Bosa had in this last one. If Freddie Kitchens doesn't hold them back, we'll see. All right, next matchup up, I will be disappointed if there isn't 80-plus points scored in this game. So the Texans, coming off their huge week, are going into Arrowhead, and I was shocked to see that the Chiefs lost to the Colts this Sunday night. But it happens. Even though I had the Chiefs going 14-2, the important number was that 2 losses. Sometimes you just get beat in the NFL, especially in a primetime game. But I still have the Chiefs as one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NFL. Their defense has always scared me. It scared everyone going into the season too. But I'll still give them the win against the Texans.
Yep, I totally agree. I'm still going to go with the Chiefs, right? They're playing in Arrowhead, one of the tougher places to play. Their offense can always keep them in a game. Doesn't matter who it's with, right? So even if their defense gives up a lot of points, their offense will usually more than make up for it.
Okay. I was just going to say, if you have any fantasy football players in this game.
Oh yeah, you're getting points, right? Hopkins is gonna pop off probably, and Tyreek Hill or whoever else, right, that plays for the Chiefs, Mahomes, right? You're popping off this week, so it's gonna be a fun game. I think there is something, right? Like nobody really goes. It's very hard to go undefeated in the NFL, like you were saying earlier. So yes, I think is maybe a little bit surprising who the Chiefs lost to, but at the same time, I expected that the Chiefs were gonna lose at some point this year. So,
I mean, I'm not so proud to say that it's not like my Niners aren't going to get beat this year. The Patriots are going to get beat. Teams just lose to bad teams sometimes. Not to say that the Colts are a bad team, but it happens a ton in the NFL. Mm-hmm. So like I said, I'm going with the Chiefs. You're going with the Chiefs as well. Mm-hmm. 4.5 point line. Do we see the Chiefs going over that, under that?
Just because they lost last week, and they've had some games that are closer than I would like them to have, I'll take the under, and I'll say it's a field goal game.
I think the Chiefs are going to pop off this week. I'm going to go over that line. All right, Tank Bowl 2019 taking place. We have a combined 9 losses between these two teams, and I don't even know how to collectively count the amount of tears these two teams have caused to their respective fan bases, but it's definitely enough to fill a few oceans. I don't know if I want to even go first on this one. Oh, I went first in this last one. Perfect. All the pressure's on you, Dre. Who's going to get their first win of the season? One of these teams has to win.
I mean, well, now, right? Like, the worst time to fire Jake Gruden is right before you go into an actual game that you might win with Jake Gruden, right?
Washington's the 3.5-point favorite, too.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Washington. Like I said, they showed some signs of life in that first week. It's more signs of life than I've seen, out of the Dolphins, really. So that's really going to be my only reason. But who knows? They might switch up quarterbacks this week and have a fourth quarterback that will throw things off. So I'm going to go with the Redskins. And I really do think that the Dolphins are in full tank mode, right? Like they know what they're doing. They know that they're not very talented right now, because they've traded away a lot of that talent, and I think they're okay with
that. This just reminds me of that episode of South Park where both teams are trying to lose.
Yeah.
So they just start like, oh, your team's horrible. My team's worse than you. We're going to totally get our ass kicked by you. That's exactly how this game is going to go.
Do you think there's the potential for fantasy players to pop off in this game? I mean,
actually,
they're both so bad, right?
Actually, I did. Yeah, I put Josh Rosen as a sleeper pick this week. Mm-hmm. And I think, honestly, both teams have a chance. I've heard the Washington Redskins defense is a popular streamer this week as well. It's funny because this is just where fantasy and the real life game just kind of like go in two separate directions, because your eyes and ears tell you when you watch this game that this is a matchup devoid of talent. But if you look at some of the players that are going to put up points this week, they're going to be placed on both Miami and Washington Redskins rosters. All right, I guess it's time for my pick. I'm going to go with the Redskins, not because of anything they've shown me on the field, purely because there's a weird trend that I've always noticed in sports. When you fire a head coach, the following week the team just seems to play with a different type of energy, and I think it just may have actually came at the right time for them in this matchup. Like I said, I don't even know what the Redskins are doing. They're not tanking for Tua because they drafted a quarterback, so I don't think it's important for them to get the number one pick. I think this win actually might mean more to the players and fans, so give me the Redskins. And 2.5, I don't know. I'm hoping for Meteor, honestly, in this game. All right. So, Kirk Cousins, again, last week we had a huge, tough discussion about him. We did mention that he was in the right matchup, right time to face the Giants, who have a pretty terrible defense in their own right. So he had a decent day. He fed Adam Thielen the ball, but he kind of ignored Stephon Diggs. That's probably the biggest news coming out of this week for that team. Is Stephon Diggs going to have a big week to kind of counteract everything? They're facing the Eagles at home. Vikings are a 3-point favorite. Where do you see this one going? Well, I guess actually, never mind. I'm taking first because you went first in Tank Bowl. Give me the Eagles. It's a tough one. It's a bit of a toss-up game for me. It may even be a coin flip, to be honest. But I'm going to go with the Eagles.
Okay, so then in that case, I will take the Vikings, though I'm not very confident, right? We just talked about how overpaid Kirk Cousins is, right, for the level of output that he's producing. Though I do think that you're right. He's going to start trying to at least perform a lot better because he's gotten so much criticism. And I think we're going to see Stephon Diggs get, into sort of a little bit of groove here in this game. Adam Thielen, I think, is still going to be a major factor. Dalvin Cook, all that. So give me the Vikings at home. Like you said, it's a coin flip game. I could very easily see the Eagles winning this, but I'll take the Vikings just to be different.
So a bit of quick math right now. So one Daryl Morey tweet is worth 4 Kirk Cousins contracts.
That is true. Which I don't know which you would rather have. Would you rather have the Daryl Morey tweet or waste the money on 4 Kirk Cousins?
No, I think that's something for some poor executive to make a decision on. Maybe if Daryl Morey's NBA career comes to an end, he could find a job in the NFL as the Vikings GM.
Going just real quick back to the Daryl Morey thing, like, if you're the owners of the Houston Rockets, how, upset are you that one tweet is causing the end of the world for you? Like, I would be so pissed. Like, one tweet, literally 6 to 7 words, and it's the end of the world. Like, you might lose your franchise.
In fairness, I've ruined relationships on less words than 7. So,
I mean, I guess fair enough. Okay, back to the topic at hand. Let's go back to football.
all right, absolutely. So last week, also Teddy Bridgewater had a big week. The Saints are rolling without Drew Brees right now. They're heading on to Duval right now this week as they're going to be facing the Jacksonville Jaguars. Minshew Mania got his first loss. He took the first L against Kyle Allen this week. Do you think the Jags will be able to bounce back at home? Still lingering over this team, and we really haven't given it much buzz, but the Jalen Ramsey topic is still out there. He's probably going to miss another week, and if anything, that's good news for the Saints.
Mm-hmm. No, I think the Saints, they look really good right now. The same thing, right? Like, I don't think the Saints are going to go undefeated the rest of the season, so I could see them taking a loss here or there, though I think they're good enough right now to beat Jacksonville. So I will take the Saints in this matchup,
Okay.
and I have them winning by 3.
The Jags are actually a favorite going into this game, too. They're a 2.5-point favorite at home. You know, a surprising thing I will say about Jacksonville, too, over the last 3 years, they've been one of the best home NFL defenses, and I don't think Teddy Bridgewater could play out of his mind again for a third straight week in a row. Give me the Jags. I think that this might be a good matchup for them. Yeah, Jacksonville against the Saints. Like I said, I don't know if this Teddy Bridgewater magical run can continue all the way till Drew Brees is back without any losses. If it does, then the Saints are going to be in the Super Bowl. That's simple as it is when you just throw Drew Brees back in that mix. All right, next matchup up. So the Bengals are also throwing their hat into the ring to be the NFL's worst team right now. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with their trade situations coming up with players like A.J. Green. But they're heading into Baltimore as 11-point dogs to the Ravens. I think Lamar is going to have a field day picking apart this defense. I'm going to go with the Ravens. I don't know if I'm going to go over that line. I'm going to go just under that. I'm going to say that the Ravens win by like 10.
Yeah, so I wasn't too impressed with the Ravens last week, especially because, you know, the Steelers had another starting quarterback go out, right, and go down. And the Steelers still almost won that game. And so that being said, I still think that the Ravens win this. So I don't have them covering that line, but I think they're going to win. They're just all around better than the Bengals. And at this point, if you're the Bengals, like, you've lost to the second worst team in the division, being the Steelers. There's not really much of a reason to try anymore. Like, you're out of the running for anything. I mean, there is some pride aspect, right? But I think the Ravens are going to beat them.
Yeah. The Bengals are done. They're looking for their franchise quarterback too, so throw their hat into the ring to drafting a quarterback in the top 5 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Next matchup on our docket right now. So the Falcons, who are probably one of the most surprising bad teams in the NFL, will be heading on the road to face the Arizona Cardinals, 1-3-1. Atlanta's a 2.5-point favorite on the road, and I know that the Cardinals are bad. My mind tells me the Cardinals are bad, but I'm going to go with the Cardinals at home, just for the very fact that this defense for the Falcons is so bad. Like, I was watching very intently on that game last week between them and the Texans, mostly because I had like fantasy implications. I had Will Fuller, who was just going ham in that game. But if this air raid offense is ever going to have a chance to shine, this is going to be the week. Going against that team. Like, I saw this video that's trending on YouTube or on Twitter of just Deshaun Watson talking about like picking apart the thing. Is like, oh, just throwing their guys. They were just open left, right, up the middle, running back and run 5 yards on them. Offensive lineman taking the house. Man, it didn't matter. I could just throw on this Falcons D offense all day. And the sad part about it, couldn't believe that was a real quote after watching that game. So, yeah, go ahead and give me the Cardinals in the upset.
Yeah, so, I mean, I was close to picking the Cardinals as well. They're not a good team, but I think they might be better than the Falcons. The Falcons, I just don't know what to do with. Like, they have some very good, very talented players, right, that you could see, oh, the Falcons should win a lot more of their games than they do. But just looking at what they've done, the Falcons have been very bad. And like you said, their defense is awful. It's atrocious. But that being said, I'm going to be a little bit different than you, and so I'll go the Falcons.
Fair enough. You know, you have to pick up some ground somewhere, right?
Yeah, or lose more ground. So.
Okay. Well, let's see here. Moving in, so we're starting into the afternoon games right now. So that was our first afternoon game there with the Cardinals Falcons. We had a very successful strategy last week when it came to the Titans game of just picking separate picks here. Okay, so you went first last week on picking it, so I think it would be unfair for me to not go with the same opportunity of me picking first on here. Do we just want to split this one again, because we're not having any success picking Titans games otherwise?
Yeah, I think so. I'll take it first. I'll go with the Titans, though I'm sure they're gonna find some way to spite me and lose. So
Okay.
I'm
Well,
not confident.
Okay, just clarify, because we didn't announce who they're facing. So, equally frustrating team for me to pick, but the Broncos. I actually picked them to get their first win last week, and I was right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the first time that I've picked them, they haven't lost on a last-second game-winning field goal. So, thank you, Denver. Thank you for giving that to me, at least.
Yeah. Is it so much that we expected Denver to be good, or more we expected that the Chargers were going to find a way to lose this game?
The Chargers just play down to their competition. I don't know what it is, but you remember last week I was kind of back and forth on the decision before pulling the trigger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember.
It was just in the back of my head. I was like, Phillip Rivers, big game. Well, not even big game. Low-level game against a mediocre opponent. Will he play like a elite quarterback? No.
And yeah, the Chargers are just disappointing. I'm sorry, Harris, but you guys let me down again.
It's crazy. It's just like you can. Like, I think I said it on Twitter poll. I don't know if I've said it in a podcast before. Who do you trust more, Tekashi 6ix9ine with your secrets, or Phillip Rivers in a clutch spot?
I mean, probably Tekashi 6ix9ine. He gives me more hope.
To tie it into the rest of the podcast, Phillip Rivers or Clayton Kershaw? Both LA-based players.
I'm going to go with Kershaw, but just because he's actually made it there, right? Like, he's actually made it to the World Series.
That's true. We have never seen Phillip Rivers in a championship game.
Yeah. So that's going to be my only reasoning, but
both players get bombed by Boston-based franchises so when the postseason, so they have that in common.
Yeah, maybe they hang out on weekends or something.
Maybe.
How many kids does Kershaw have?
I don't know, but it not nearly is enough to really have a play date with the Rivers family.
I would hope not.
Maybe Cromartie and him hang out. I'd like to think in the future, in 10 to 15 plus years, we're going to legitimately see a team based entirely off of Phillip Rivers' family and Antonio Rogers Cromartie's family going head to head.
Oh, I believe it. Like, I can totally see it. It's just a bunch of their little mini-me's playing on one team together.
It's a simple dream, but it's one that I have.
Yeah. All the cheerleaders too, might as well make it cheerleaders, all the sisters. Like,
hey, we talked about it a few weeks ago. Carly Lloyd's pushing to be the NFL's first female kicker. Maybe by that time we'll just have a multi-gendered sport.
Yeah. All of Cromartie's and Rivers's.
Okay, we're getting sidetracked, but a lot of fun. But all right. So, oh boy. So we talked about the Cowboys getting off of these easy teams into legitimate opponents. Well, guess what? They're back to easy teams, as they'll be going on the road to face the New York Jets this week. 7-point line for Dallas. On the bright side, if you're the Jets, Sam Darnold probably won't die, as he put it, and he'll be back there on the field. First week coming off a major illness, no matter how much we joke about mono and how he ended up getting it, it still is a legitimate thing, and at least he's back there on the field. The Jets are going to play much better, but they're not going to play nearly at the level of this Dallas team. Dallas needs this win bad. Give me Dallas covering that spread.
Oh, yeah. I 100% agree with you. I think we're going to see Dallas come in, whoop the Jets, even though the Jets are a bad team, and then you're going to hear all the Cowboys fans saying, "We them boys again." And
Dak's going to throw 5 touchdowns. We're going to get to hear about his contract again. Granted, on this show, at some point, we're probably going to have to talk about Dak's contract too, but we're going to stall that as much as we can because I'm sure if you're listening to sports media right now, you're so tired of that subject at this point.
Yeah, I think I remember, I forget who it was. Somebody was on one of the major sports media shows, and they're like, do we really have to talk about the Cowboys again? And just came up straight out and said it. And they're like, yeah, unfortunately, that's on the docket. So, yeah, so we're going to skip over them. I think, again, they're going to win this game.
All right. So, I mean, arguably, honestly, the game of the week, and I don't mean this as a biased fan to say it, but the Niners are going on the road to face the Los Angeles Rams. And this is a big week for the Rams coming off that loss to the Seattle Seahawks. If they go 3-3 and they're a couple games behind the Niners and the Seahawks, that's it for their season.
Mm-hmm.
And this pains me to say this, but all the odds stack up in the Rams' favor for this matchup. So the Rams played last Thursday. They get the mini bye in this situation. Then you have on the opposing end of that, the Niners played on Monday night. With that said, that combines for a matchup in favor of the Rams. I'm going to go with the Rams. Vegas has a 3-point line right now. This is going to be the first week I don't pick my Niners, which I don't know if that's going to jinx them. Guess we'll see. Going with the Rams. Pains me, but.
Yeah, I'm also going with the Rams. I think they need a bounce back week, and the 49ers, they've surprised me every single week. I think I've picked against them every single week, and they've proven me wrong every single week. But I do think this is sort of where their undefeated streak comes to an end. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Like we talked about, is that it's very hard in the NFL to go undefeated. Like very rarely do you get an undefeated season. And in fact, in my time, I think I can only remember the Patriots went undefeated one year.
It's only happened twice in NFL history, the Patriots and the 72 Dolphins.
Yeah.
So once again, let's see here. So the Niners are going to lose their thing. So when the Patriots get into their tougher schedule, once again, the 72 Dolphins are going to get to uncork that champagne in Don Shula's restaurant and drink to another team not going undefeated. Such a petty tradition, but honestly, that they drink to every team that loses their undefeated streak. But hey, whatever, traditions are traditions. I think it's going to be interesting. Is the tradition going to continue of ripping Eris's team? Because Sunday night's going to be a big one for you guys. Another game where the house is divided in Slumpbuster media. Yep. So he told me you guys plan on doing the fantasy football pod together after this one. Who's going to have bragging rights when it's all said and done?
So the sad thing is, right, like the Chargers might find a way to lose against the Steelers. And I know the Steelers are very bad right now, but there's no way that I could pick them. I have to go with the Chargers. I mean, the Chargers actually have a starting quarterback and not a practice team, practice squad quarterback. I want to say Hodges, who's starting this week for the Steelers. He played actually decent, right? But they basically resorted to Wildcat offense, which really is not an NFL offense. It's basically hey, this is our last resort, and we don't want to rely too much on our quarterback. And that's basically what the Steelers did last week. I expect to see a lot of the same, but they're also going to be missing Washington is out at the wide receiver spot. Obviously, they don't have Big Ben. Mason Rudolph is gone. And so I think just injuries alone, this is just a bad season for the Steelers, and I think they're going to lose this game too.
Okay. I mean, that's a tough decision for you, and I get it. Well, I'm not going to go against the Chargers again. As much as I know they play bad against bad teams for whatever reason, they just don't play up to their talent. They have a talented roster. They cannot lose in their home stadium again, regardless if it's a soccer stadium. You know the worst part about it, though? The Steelers fan base is a huge fan base that goes across the nation and travels well. You know that stadium is going to be rocking entirely Steelers fans.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be all black and, our shade of yellow, right? Not the Chargers, yellow and blue, right? So it's going to be all Steelers. Doesn't mean they're going to win, but there'll be a lot of Steelers fans.
At some point, we're going to have to come to the point where we're going to throw Eris a bone. We're going to talk about this stadium situation for the Chargers because it's starting to get desperate and sad right now, their time in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Monday night, that surprising unexpected team out of Detroit is going to be playing in Lambeau against the Packers. They're coming off a bye week, so that's going to work in their favor. Get a bit of an extended bye week, too, playing on Monday night as well. So the last time we saw the Lions play, they gave the Chiefs a hell of a run. Will they be able to do that against the Packers? Because if we're going to say ownage is ownage for the Twins versus the Yankees, Aaron Rodgers has dominated this Lions franchise for years. Regardless if he's playing at Aaron Rodgers MVP type levels or not, I can foresee the Green Bay Packers still winning this game.
Yeah. No, I think the Green Bay Packers, that's who I've got winning this game, especially playing in Lambeau, right? It's a whole nother environment. And I think the Lions, like we've said, they were an underrated, very scrappy team that a lot of people we were thinking, slept on them. And they are just that. Like, they're very underrated. They're a very tough team, in my opinion. But are they better than the Packers? I don't think. And are they better than the Packers playing in Lambeau? I definitely don't think so. So give me the Packers.
Well, you better hope so. You put them in your top 10. It's a bit too rich for my blood, but okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think so far they've proven to me that they're a really good team.
So the only thing I'll counter you on is, so you had them ahead of the Colts, who actually beat the Chiefs.
That is true. So, I mean, it's such a weird season, though, when you're doing power rankings. Like, there's so many teams that I'm trying to use the best logic that I can and keep consistent logic, right? Like, if there's a team that beat a bad team, I don't want to give them too much of a bump, right? Like, and I think I did that a little bit with the Cowboys, is like, okay, they're beating some of the bad teams. And then there's some teams that they lose, and I'm like, well, do I put them behind the team that they lost to? But then at the same time, like, I definitely don't think the Colts are better than the Chiefs. But then there are some times where it's like, hey, this team just beat that team. Like, they deserve to flip. So it's just hard. This year's power rankings are all over the map. And so, yeah, expect more mistakes from me.
I tell you, power rankings are interesting things when you actually have to sit down and legitimately put thought into it. Like, it's funny actually even having you break down the bottom, as pesky as it seems, as minuscule as it seems. The bottom of a rankings is actually where I base my rankings. I work from the bottom up.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that's a good suggestion. So I go top down, right, and see who should fall, who should rise. And it's very difficult this year just because there's so many teams that are losing, right? Like the Rams I had definitely top 5, I want to say, but even possibly top 3 at the start of the season.
I think this goes into what we were saying at the start of the podcast. We're at the point in the season where you have to drop any preconceived notions you had about how good a team is or how bad a team is, because we're starting to get some definitive answers as far as what these teams are.
Yep. Yeah, no, I agree. And so I'm thinking here in the next 2 weeks is where we'll start to see fewer and fewer changes, right? And where the power rankings will start to solidify. But this year's been crazy.